Welcome to Savvy Business, Life Unscripted, with your host, Christina Rivera, where our guests share their wisdom and valuable business tips, empowering our audience to expand their personal potential.
Hi, Dr. Lycka. Welcome to Savvy Broadcasting. Unleash your story. We're so grateful to have you here. You're going to be an inspiration to start out this new year for this series on sharing why is it so hard to choose hope over hate. And over the past couple of years, there's been a lot of divisiveness across the country and the world. And we want to find a way to get people talking and being more productive and stop hollering and screaming at each other. And it ain't going to get anyone listening and growing. So I'm so grateful to have you here today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's always a delight to be with you and talk with you. I've had you on my podcast. It was a delightful podcast that we had.
Yes, we did. It was fabulous. And today, being the start of the year, you're in the January, you're starting us out in the first month. But tell me, what is your take on what's going on and why are people not using hope and going more towards the hate cycle? What's up with that?
I think people have just forgotten what it's all about. I think, this COVID has been very hard on people. And, people living in their own caves, so to speak, it's a very difficult time. And I think people are angry. I think they're angry at everything. They're just angry. They're angry at the world. They're angry at everything that's going on.
Yeah.
And using this anger in ways that are not appropriate. And that's coming out with hate talk. That's coming out with ways that are not right. It's an easy flip the switch. You can either talk about that or you can choose your own destiny. You can choose to go to the other side. And the other side is really the love side, the inspiration side, things like that. But, for me to talk about this, it comes from personal inspiration. Back in 2003, I was diagnosed with having ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. And at that time, it was a crushing blow, as anybody would have. Because for people who don't know, ALS is a disease that usually causes death within 6 months of getting that diagnosis.
Wow.
So it's a diagnosis that people hate to have. And it came about rather difficultly. I was walking with my wife from Disneyland, the happiest place on earth. Left turned to me and she said, "What's wrong with you, bud?" And I said, "What do you mean, what's wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with me." She said, "Listen to your foot." I said, "What do you mean, listen to your foot?" She said, "Listen to it." My right foot had suddenly, mysteriously developed a right foot drop. And at that time, she said, "You better get this checked out." So I did. I went to see dozens of doctors, hundreds of doctors. And at the end of it, I went to see a world-leading neurologist. A neurologist is a great guy. He's the guy that has all the answers. He's the guy that puts it all together and says, "This is what you have." And I went to see him. And he said, "You better be sitting down when I tell you this." I said, "Why? I got a drop right foot." He said, "No, you don't. You have ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. Get your affairs in order. You have 6 months." To make a long story short, I went through more investigations until I finally saw a doctor in Colorado Springs, Colorado, by the name of David Barnes. And he put me on a diagnosis of chronic Lyme's disease, which I had. Chronic Lyme's disease is the bite of a tick, and that causes a chronic neurological disease that mimics many diseases. And one of the diseases it mimics is ALS. Now, when you go through something like that, Christine, think about your life. You think about what's happened to you. You think about all the things that went on. You turn to hate and anger and meanness, or you turn to love and giving back and seeing how you can help people. And I decided that what I was going to do was to live my life and to give back to others and help others get to another stage. And that's what I do now. I left the medical profession back in 2019, and now I'm a full-time speaker, podcaster, a person that helps people with these goals. And I help people get to their next level, helping people getting to their to find their ideal self, find their real self. And so that's where I'm at now. And that's the phase of life I'm in. I came at it a difficult way, but I hope others can come at it without having to go through the difficulty that I went through. I hope others can go through and really find their way and look inside themselves and say, this isn't the right way. Yeah. Being mean-spirited, being disheartened, being a person that's going to hate your neighbor is not the right way and not the way for mankind.
It's interesting because a lot of people who've been on the show in the past, one of the things that got them to either start a business or make major transformational change in their life was a huge event, like maybe cancer or illness or whatever it might be. But we don't need to wait for a major crisis to happen before we make change. Now, something else you mentioned right early when you started talking was that a lot of people have been locked up, and this is causing them to be in like their own individual bubbles of sorts. And then, of course, being locked up is not natural for humans. We're meant to be social animals connecting with other humans. And when you had that going on, it leads to a lot of this anger, hate, and really people feeling disempowered. And which we're hoping with you sharing your story of going through ALS and realizing, okay, it's not that. I found my health. I'm able to restore my health. It's not the end of the world. But I love that you share your story. What can someone do if they do feel that they're not going anywhere in their life? They feel frustrated with everything because of what's going on outside of themselves. How do they reconcile that?
The first thing they have to do is realize it's happening. They have to say, I'm not happy. I'm not doing the things. Second thing to do is talk about it. To find somebody that they need to talk to. Whether it's a friend, their spouse, or somebody like that. Or they need to get some professional counseling. Really need to seek out somebody that can act as a mentor, somebody that can act as a person that can help them with the baby steps to get their life in line.
Yeah.
The things I do is also counsel people on that, help people with that. Group counseling sessions so people can get their affairs in order so that they can find a better path for themselves, so that they can do things in a better way. I think that's very important for them to really look at themselves. And once they figure it out, another thing they can do is to read a good book. If they can read a good book, books sometimes can help put those pieces together.
Yeah, I love that you say that, read a good book. I think our culture has gotten away from reading so much. The first thing we do is turn on the TV, go to our computers. Sometimes just cracking open a good book's a good way to not only unwind, but see a different perspective. Because nonfiction, there's plenty of stories out there of people living in difficult times or places, having a perspective that's not like your own, but one you can be like, okay, their life is really horrible. My life is awesome compared to theirs.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of biographies and autobiographies because then people can really look at a different way of doing things. I try to read at least a book a week. I've read thousands of books over my lifetime, and I think that's really important to read as many books as you can. The second thing you can do is look at a podcast. Podcasts are really a lazy man's way of finding a good resource. And, podcasts are out there everywhere. I read my own podcast called How to Live a Fantastic Life. It's on Apple and all the other podcast channels. And it's also syndicated on radio stations now. So people looking it up can usually find that and be part of that as well. As I said, you were a guest on my podcast.
Yeah.
So that was really wonderful. So podcasts are a nice way to really find a lot of information in a very short period of time. Every week I interview a guest that will change a person's life. And we really have a lot of wonderful guests that have gone through differences, gone through difficulties. And that's how we bring more and more to the person there. Another way is just to be quiet and be still and meditate. I think sometimes by putting the questions out there, putting the difficulties out there, you can start putting the pieces together to do that. And make a plan, and once you decide that you want to do something, if you do 3 things a day to get toward your goal, I don't think your goal will be that far away from getting it.
Yeah.
So basically 3 little steps, 3 little baby steps to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great way to do that.
Yeah, I like that you say baby steps, because I think people don't get started often with things because they feel like it's too huge. But like 3 small things, like first get up, make your bed, then do 10 push-ups. And okay, that's it for movement for today because you haven't done a lot. Or as one gal said to me, she was working with someone super heavy. She said, okay, what we're going to start with, you're going to go to the end of your driveway and pick up your mail every day for the first week, because he was not moving at all. So wherever you're at, let's take baby steps to move towards your goal. I don't want us to leave without everyone finding out how they can get in contact with you, get on your awesome or listen to your awesome podcast or work with you. How can they do that?
All of it's on my website. My website is Dr. Dr. Allen, Allen, Lycka, Lycka.com. drallenlycka.com. Also, my podcast is on all the major things. So How to Live a Fantastic Life is what it's called. And you can just look it up and it's right there. And there's over 50 podcasts right now that we have.
That's great. And we all can live a fantastic life, regardless of what goes on the outside. It's what goes on with yourself. You make the decision how you react to whatever's going on. And I just have to thank you, Dr. Lycka, for coming to share your great wisdom today on Savvy Broadcasting. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Have a fantastic day and a fantastic year. Let's make 2022 a fantastic year for everyone.
You betcha. Thank you, Dr. Lycka.
Like, subscribe, and share this episode. To listen to more savvy episodes and savvy biz tips, go to www.lifeunscriptedradio.com. To find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or how to become a guest, email Christina at lifeunscriptedradio.com.